Hey guys, what I'd like to do today is talk about tablets. So I've got my new Apple iPad Pro. I've had this for a few months now at this point. Got my old one sitting over here as well. And yes, both of these are Apple iPads. They're on iPad OS, but everything I'm going to be talking about in this video is applicable to Android tablets as well. I'm kind of speaking generally when I'm talking about all of these things. So there's three things I really want to address here. And the first one is, well, really just my experience of using the Apple iPad Pro over the last few months. And the thing I really want to talk about is, am I using it? And that's a valid point. It sounds stupid, but a lot of people buy tablets with the idea that they're going to use it all the time. And then they realize that they're using the mobile phone all the time, they're using the laptop, they're using the desktop, and their tablet just gathers dust and it just goes into a drawer and it's not used. Now, I'm saying that as someone that's did this before. I used this a lot at first, and then I kind of got out of the habit of using it. And it's just something that you have to take into account before you buy a tablet. Do you actually need one? Are you going to use it? And before you do buy, before you spend any money, even on a cheap tablet, just think of how you would use it. Are you going to be browsing the web? Are you going to be watching videos, etc.? Just get an idea of what you would use it for and how you would kind of change your internet usage habits. Now, for me, I had a few things in mind as to how I would use this. You can see here from the Apple Pencil Pro there that I was intending of using that. And yes, I have been using this for taking notes. But it's not just notes that I've been using this for. I have been making a point of using this to take notes, but I've also been using it to listen to music. Whenever I start making something for dinner, I put on Spotify or I put on YouTube and I just watch a video online. I find myself as well, what I do is I make a point of carrying it. I just carry it around the house. So I'll carry it around the house. And if I'm sitting here, I'll maybe put a video in the background. And if I'm in bed, I'll browse the web. Same if I'm on the couch watching something on Netflix, I'll browse the web, or I'll play a game, or I'll do something like that. And that's kind of what I've been using it for. I do take notes, but I'm not going to lie, the majority of the time that I use this iPad right now, I'm using it to listen to music, to watch movies, to play games, to browse the web. And I have found that, I used to, like most people, just lie in bed or sit on the couch and just, reply to messages and browse the web, etc., on my smartphone. But I have found that when I use my tablet, it's a more enjoyable experience. It just feels more relaxing to just kind of browse around and just browse the web using your tablet. So in that regard, for me at least in the first few months of using this iPad Pro, I have been using it a lot. And that's good because it was a concern of mine that I would not use it. So yeah, if you're going to use one, if you're going to buy a tablet, just make sure that you actually have a use for it. This is something that probably complements something you've got already, either a laptop or your smartphone. You're going to have to adapt how you use your apps, how you connect to the web. And at the end of the day, if you just find yourself going back to using a smartphone, you probably don't need to keep the tablet. You're probably as well selling it on. I have found myself using it and I have been really enjoying browsing the web, watching videos. I've just found it to be everything's a little bit better with the tablet when I make a point of using it. So the second thing I want to talk about is, well, really the limitations of a tablet. When I bought this, I bought it to use as a tablet. Now, the reason I'm saying that is that you'll see so many videos on YouTube from, tech YouTubers, etc., and they're trying to make this an all-in-one device. They're trying to make this the everything device. Why carry around a laptop and a tablet when you can get your tablet to do just everything for you? And there's a whole industry built around that idea, that concept. If you look online, you'll see lots of keyboards for the iPad. You'll see lots of USB hubs. You'll see lots of different accessories to try and make this more like a laptop, more versatile, keyboard, mouse, all that kind of thing. I think this is a good example of it. This is a tweet from Mr. Who's the Boss. He's a really good YouTuber. I'm sure you're aware of who he is. And he tweeted this last month that his iPad experiment failed. And he talked about basically what everyone else finally discovers about tablets, in that it's top heavy, and that, you know, if you hold it like this and you've got the keyboard there, very top heavy device. You've got most of the weight here, and the keyboard just isn't heavy enough. So it's a horrible experience if you're typing on the sofa, etc. It's okay on the desk. But he also just talked about how it's basically limited, and you know, you're kind of having to work around the limitations of iPad OS or Android. And you know, his conclusions there are conclusions that most people end up coming to eventually. Now, I'm sure you'll see some evangelists on YouTube that say, no, my iPad does everything, it replaces everything. And for some people, that might actually be true. If you have very limited you know, requirements for what you do online, if you're mainly just shopping on Amazon, using Facebook and browsing the web, a tablet's going to tick all those boxes for you. But a lot of the people that are trying to, you know, use this as an all-in-one device, they're trying to use the iPad or another tablet, you know, from Samsung or whoever. They're trying to use that as their all-in-one device to replace video editing, to replace photo editing, to replace, you know, updating their website, for taking notes, perhaps. Think for note taking, for writing and things like that. This is maybe where the iPad and other tablets can tick most of the boxes. You might have a kind of limited experience, but you know, for note taking, for typing and different things, that's maybe where the tablet is good. But you're always going to run into some limitations. At the end of the day, iPad OS and Android, they're always going to offer you a restricted kind of experience of, they have to. It's just, you know, it's optimized for tablet. One of the companies that's kind of tried to address this is Samsung. If you get a Samsung tablet, you also get Samsung DeX, which is a kind of desktop replacement, but it isn't a full desktop replacement. And then you've got the Surface Pro. It's probably the closest to what you can have an all-in-one device, but Windows, you know, on a tablet, it's just not the same as Android or iPad OS. So I'm just pointing this out again, just for people to be realistic as to what their expectations are. Maybe there are some people that think that they can replace all their devices with a tablet. I think for most people, though, they're going to end up disappointed. I came into this, you know, this whole experience of buying a new tablet, I came into it with my eyes open. And yes, maybe down the line, maybe I will try a keyboard attachment just for taking notes or whatever. But you're then in that situation where your tablet is no longer a tablet. You know, it's twice the weight, so you're less likely to grab it because it's a pain to carry around. And then you're using it like a laptop. And ultimately, if you know, buy the keyboard attachment and you try and set everything up to work like a desktop operating system, then you're probably in a situation where why not you just use a laptop? Again, you know, everyone's needs are different. Everyone has different requirements as to what they're looking for in a tablet. Just be realistic as to what tablets are for. I bought this to be a tablet, you know, an extension of my smartphone, a lazy way to do many things, and you know, have fun with it, play games and different things like that. And yes, I can do video editing on this if I'm on the move. If I'm traveling somewhere, I could do video editing. But really, it's not simple. You know, if I go away somewhere, I'm going on holiday and I want to do some video editing, I'm going to have to use some attachments. I don't have the full video editing experience. It's a restricted form of what I would normally do. So just be realistic about that. So my last thought that I would like to share with you all is, well, it's this. I don't think the majority of people need a top of the range tablet. They don't need a premium tablet. You know, I think at the bottom of the line, you know, very cheap Android tablets, I would avoid the really cheap brands, you know, those that don't have software updates, that, you know, you lose support after a year, that aren't updated. That's an issue when it comes to security and different things. But really, from the kind of $150 mark on the way upwards, you know, if you get an Amazon tablet, if you get a Xiaomi tablet, a Samsung tablet, an Apple iPad, the basic tablet will do the job for most people in most situations. And an alternative to that is to buy an older iPad. So this is the 2017 iPad Pro, and forgetting this is Touch ID and not Face ID. And yes, this is an older tablet. It's an older tablet than this one by like 7 years. And yes, the new tablet has a nicer display. It's got slightly better speakers, and it is more responsive as well. But I will say as well, when it comes to playing kind of simple games, when it comes to browsing the web, etc., I can do like 80-90% of what I'm doing on the old tablet, the old iPad Pro. And this can be picked up second hand now for like £150. And this sells brand new for like £900 or £1,000. So yeah, take that in mind. It's just one thing that comes up a lot in tech. It's the law of diminishing returns. When you spend a few $100 on a tablet, you get most of the things that you need. When you spend extra, you get better speakers, you might get a better display, and after that, it's kind of small incremental upgrades. But day to day, you probably don't notice these types of things. So I don't want to be a hypocrite here. This is the thing. I don't want to be a hypocrite because I've splurged and I've got the best iPad that you can get. But I'm also realistic of the fact that I probably would have been just as happy with a £250 Xiaomi tablet. It would have ticked most of the boxes that I'm looking for. I've paid a hefty premium to get better cameras, to get a snappier experience, slightly snappier experience. But I do think that for most people that are looking to buy a tablet, the cheaper end of the tablet range, the cheapest iPad or the cheapest Android tablet out there from, a company like Xiaomi or like Samsung or like Lenovo, I think those cheaper tablets will do the job for most people. I really do think that. It's not like years ago where the budget tablets were really sluggish and just really, really bad to use or just a poor user experience. I think the lower end of the market, I think even cheap tablets are doing well, as long as you avoid those ones that just don't get updated. So yeah, just have a think about all of this before you spend money. Just to go over the points again, think about whether you would use a tablet long term. And if you're really not sure about whether it would kind of integrate into your daily routine, go towards the cheaper end of the market. Don't spend a huge amount of money if you don't think you really need it. And again, just be aware of the limitations of tablets. They're fantastic devices. They're amazing to use. They're really fun to use. But I still view a laptop as a productivity device, and I still view a tablet as a consumption device. So I view the tablet as the device that I get work done. If I really want to take notes and I want to do things, I'll go towards the laptop. If I want to consume, if I want to relax, I want to play games and watch videos, I would go towards a tablet. The reason this big, question, this big discussion about an all-in-one devices came out is because the line has been blurred, because these things are so powerful and so versatile. And last but not least, I would say that don't overspend if you don't want to. I kind of sold this one to myself as well. I'm splurging, I'm paying more, but iPad Pros hold their value well. And if I think of the value of, enhanced features like the camera and the display, if I think of that over 2, 3, 4 years, then to me, that was an easy way to justify this purchase. But there's no getting away from the fact that most of the time when you use a tablet, you're not using those enhanced features. You don't really need them. It is a bit of a splurge. And if you've got the cash, splurge. Enjoy it. You'll get faster games. You can run more powerful games. You can have a better display and all that. But I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people that are just happy with a simple tablet and it will do most things for them. As always, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Give me your opinion on this, whether you agree or disagree. Post a comment below. And until next time, take care.